Okay, hi there, how you doing? My name is Kathleen Sinnott, and you are at the BA Zone. Tonight we're going to talk about how to get experience for that all-important job before you maybe have gotten the job that's going to give you experience. It's totally possible. It just takes a little effort on your part, but all good things in life do require a little bit of effort, correct? All right, so I'm just going to verify that everything's working because, as I've said before, I am a one-person show. And I will also give you a chance to settle in, get comfy, think of your comments, questions, what have you. Follow and like. And also please invite anybody that you think might find this interesting and or helpful. It's easy enough. There's just a little button that you click to do the share, and then we will get started. So just let me verify that everything is rocking and rolling, and then we can get the show on the road. All right, as usual, I think the Periscope comments are going to be a bit of a challenge, but that's okay. And it doesn't look like Facebook is up yet, but I think that's okay. That usually takes a little bit longer. It's a little more precise. That's okay. Right, okay. And let me try one more time with the Facebook comments because, you know, hey, the other thing I forgot to check is YouTube, right? YouTube should be working tonight. She says optimistically. So just to remind you, we're going to talk tonight about, we've been talking all month about getting a job, finding either your first job out of school or, you know, maybe changing your job. Maybe you're transitioning from one position into a BA position. All these good things. It's the beginning of the year. It's time for renewal. People branching out, got new plans for the years. So we're trying to start you off on the right foot. And we've talked about, you know, how to start, what to do before you start working on your resume. We talked about working on your resume. Now we're going to talk about that other piece, which is the hard part for some people, because there's a vicious cycle out there, hence the title, that if you are looking for a job, they want you to have experience. But in order to get the experience, you need to have the job. Except that there's a couple ways that you can work around that. So we're going to get into that. I've got 2 more minutes here. So let me just make sure that we've got all of our ducks in a row. And we can get started. I'm going to just mute for 1 second here. Forgot to make tea, so I'm having to make do with water. Ran out of time. Okay, Creator Studio. Are we working? Please, please, please. Come on, you can do this. Oh, come on. You're supposed to do this for me, and it's supposed to work just fine. See? Like I just said, right? Anything that is worth doing is going to involve some effort, including this. And that's not the one I want. That's okay. We're getting closer. Okay, so hopefully everybody's having a good day. If you are, let's see, if you are just looking for your first job, why don't you put the word, well, just put the number 1 in the comments. And if you're looking for just a new job, put a number 2. And if you're looking to transition, put a number 3. And that way that'll help me know which way to kind of skew the examples. So that's 1 if you're looking for your first job, 2 if you're just looking to transition from one position into just another job, and 3 if you're coming to be a BA from a position outside of being BA, but you have some more experience in your back pocket. How does that sound? Okay. Ooh, 23 seconds, and Facebook should join us. That would be good. Okay. Oh, good. We are live. Yay! Love when the technology behaves, she says optimistically, probably too early. I shouldn't jinx myself, right? I know. I can't help it. I get happy when the technology is working. It's a good thing. All right, we got 30 seconds. Let's try one more time to get these comments up. And if it is not going to work, then okay, we'll just work around it. Oh, see? As soon as I start to say things like that, then it starts to fall into place. I don't know why, but that's just how it seems to go. Okay. You know, I have 2 very large monitors and a small monitor, and I still don't have enough room. It's a very first world problem, I know. If you're going to have a problem, it's a good one to have. Okay. Okay, so the timer has stopped. So let me get that off of the screen here, and then we can dive in. Come on, where are you hiding? This is one I don't have programmed on my little keyboard yet. Okay, and we can take our little lower third off. Actually, maybe I'll leave that up for just a second. Okay. Hi, my name is Kathleen Sinnott, and welcome to the BA Zone. I hope you're having a good day and that you're ready to dive in on our next topic around the month focused on the job hunt. Tonight, we're going to talk about how to get experience before you've got a job that's giving you experience. Totally doable, not easy, but I'm not going to mislead you. It's not a simple thing. There's no just add water. There's no magic wand that I can wave. But with a little effort, you can totally help boost yourself above the other people who are applying, even if you don't already have years of experience in the job. So settle in, get your pad out to take some notes, get your comments and questions ready. You can go ahead and pre-submit them if you want. I can dive into them later as we go along. And also, please invite anybody that you think would enjoy this conversation. Just hit the little share button on whichever platform you're on. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and we're on Periscope. So if your friend or coworker doesn't like one or the other, they can go and use a tool of their choice. We try to be accommodating here. And we will dive in here. Okay, I think I have all of our pieces. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Love it when a plan comes together. Okay, so you've done your research, you've gone and you've looked at the job postings, you've identified the ones that you think are a good fit for you, you've made notes about what it is that they're looking for, how they're phrasing things, you started to work on your resume, but maybe you're feeling like, I don't quite have the experience that I think is going to help me get this job, or maybe my experience is not quite where I want it to be. That's all okay. We can totally help you out with that. It's totally something that you can take care of on your own as a step into getting this new job. So just to refresh your memory, the whole point of all the discussions that we're having this month are about getting you to the interview. So this is about getting all the pieces in place so that when your resume goes in front of either the headhunter or the in-house hiring manager, that if you apply all the things that we've been talking about, you're going to bubble up to the top and land on that yes pile so that you get brought in for that interview, because that's where you're going to shine. That's where you're going to get the job. It's not the resume. The resume is important. You absolutely have that. That is the key that unlocks the door, but it doesn't get you the job. You getting in the room with the person who's doing the hiring and selling yourself and helping them understand how you can help them, how you can solve their problems, how you can help them with their pain points, that's what gets you the job. So all of this is work that has to be done and is absolutely important, but it is the lead up to that big moment when you're going to sit down in front of them and make them understand why you are going to be such a valuable employee. Okay? So you're all set. You've got the basics. Now let's talk about how to get the experience if you don't already have it. Now, it could be that maybe you haven't been doing something exactly in there, what they call domain, a lot of the time. So maybe, just as an example, maybe you've been working in financial services, but a position has come up in healthcare, and you're like, I've always wanted to work in that kind of an environment. I'd really like to get my foot in the door. That's one problem, but you've already got all of the experience. You know, if you've been working as a BA, you've already, you've got stories you can tell about projects you've worked on, how you've contributed in those projects, the problems you ran into, the solutions that you found. So for the folks that are in that situation, don't get too hung up on the fact that maybe you don't have healthcare yet. Now, you're going to run into headhunters and even sometimes hiring managers that are like, oh, forget it, you don't have this domain, you haven't worked here before, we need somebody with the experience already. Let them have their piece, let them say what they need to say, and then say, I totally understand, but I can assure you that I have learned the other domains that I have worked in. I can absolutely learn this too. And maybe you've got, some life experience that kind of gives you a little bit of a foot in the door for this new domain. But just always, as you're having this conversation, don't let that stop you. Keep it in the back of your mind. If they're in business, okay, and they're making money, clearly they already have domain experts on site, right? Because that's how they've been doing their business all along. And you, as a BA, your skill is being able to learn things quickly, being able to interview people in different areas and glean the knowledge that you need. So you will absolutely be able to go into this new domain and do that. So very nicely, but with all the confidence in the world, know that if you've been working successfully as a BA in any domain, you can work in any domain. So let's just get that one out of the way. I run into that one a lot, and it boggles the mind, but okay, that's the reality. That's what you're going to run into. So it's important to know that it's not a reason to stop. It's not a reason to not submit. If it's something that you feel, if you can do everything else that's on that job description, but you just haven't worked in that domain yet, go for it. Absolutely. You will totally be able to do it. You'll totally be able to nail it. Okay. So before we get into our examples, one second here. Oh, I forgot to do something. So if you've been looking around on this topic, you will see that there's a ton of articles out there on this and other conversations about it. Now, as you probably know, if you've been with us for a little while, here at the BA Zone, our focus is not so much about theory and, you know, possibility. No, not possibilities. That's not the right word. It's not theoretical. We're talking real world here, okay? We're talking about, we try to provide you information that you can use right away, not something that is, you know, applicable, you know, in a fairy tale world filled with unicorns, okay? So every time I see these kind of articles, I always laugh because they all basically say the same thing. So I just opened a few of them. So their answers are usually things like, and I'm sure you've seen these, you know, go through a side door. No, we can go through the front door. We have our skills. Promote your soft skills. Well, you would do that anyway during an interview. Translate your experience. Now that is one that does kind of apply, and that's what I was talking about before. So if you've got, you know, some parallel experience, or you've got some crossover experience, or you can take things that you've done before and put them in the right light, not lying. I will never tell you to lie. And by the way, if you run into a headhunter that tells you to lie, run the other way. But it's okay to take, you know, things that you have done and say, you know, well, okay, you know, maybe I wasn't hired to be a BA, but on this project I was doing X, and those are BA skills. Or there was no BA on the project, so I stepped in and I did X, Y, Z, even though that wasn't my job title. Those are the types of things that when they say things like translate your experience, that totally works. But when they tell you things like work for cheap, work for free, unless you are independently wealthy and this is your hobby, that is a bad idea. This is a job. You have skills, okay? So don't undersell yourself just because you're missing one piece of their dream description, job description, okay? If you've got the skills, then make sure that you get paid for those skills. And again, don't devalue yourself just because you're missing one thing, because as we talked about in the earlier sessions, all of the job descriptions are wish lists. They are the perfect person that, you know, in their dreams. Again, they're looking for, everybody's looking for unicorns, but that doesn't mean that unicorns exist. But it's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's their job to get the best possible employee that they can get, unfortunately for the cheapest amount. It's your job to get the best possible position for your skill set at the best possible rate you can get. This is just the world. This is not, nobody's going to be doing you any favors. Nobody's hiring you as a favor. This is, you're bringing skills to the table. They have a need for those skills. That's why there's an exchange of money here. So understand your value as you're going into it, and don't buy into this, oh, work for free because you're missing one thing. What's the other one that there was another one I saw that was like, okay, that's just really sad. Hang on. Yes, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, okay. Oh, yes, volunteering. Well, see, that to me, that falls in the same. It's like, you know, don't work for free if you have bills to pay. So, let's get into how we're going to actually do this. Actually, let me just double check and make sure that everything is still working. Okay, so, hi, Austin, Brian, so nice to see you. You're over on Facebook. Good to see you. Susan, hello. Thanks for coming by. Let's see. So Susan says, it isn't about the job you've held, it's about what skills you have. And that's exactly it. Thank you, Susan. I'm glad it's making sense. That's exactly what this is all about. And again, it's even for the business analysts, you know, that the job titles are a little bit more defined, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't also, you know, look at other job titles, because it is about the skills. So, you know, if you are reading a job description and it doesn't say BA at the top, but you're reading through it and you're like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, apply if you want to. Don't get too wrapped up in the job titles, because they're labels and they change over time. I mean, I've given up trying to tell people what I do, because I'm kind of a hybrid of user experience, business analyst, and front-end coding. And there isn't a single job title for that. So I just, whenever I do, personally, when I do job searches, I I search for the titles, but that's not my main focus. My main focus in my job searches are always for the skills. And then I see what job titles come up. Now, you know, that may not work for everybody, but that is absolutely one of the things that I do. Okay, let me just double check here. I'm just making sure everything is still working because I did have a problem the other night where something died. Okay. All right, so let's dive into it here. So you're ready to go in, but you're feeling a little weak on the experience side of things. And again, this is very often the people who are just coming out of school, but it could also be somebody who's re-entering the workforce. It could be somebody who maybe had gone and, you know, was doing something else for a while. Now they're coming back to this. Also, this happens a lot for people who are maybe transitioning, doing a lateral move. So maybe you've been working as a QA person, or maybe you've been working as a PM, and now you've decided that, oh, you know, you've worked a lot with BAs and you like the work that they're doing, and you want to go and give that a try now. In all those situations, that's usually where people start to feel a little insecure about themselves because they're like, oh, well, I don't really have all this. So let's talk about how you can actually get there. But one of the things that I want to make very clear here is that it's not magic. It's not easy. It's going to take effort on your part. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily spending money, although there are some pieces of this where you could, you know, if you feel like that would help you. But for the most part, this is about you cutting out, you know, some time in your week and focusing and being creative about, you know, looking at things that you've done and trying to create these pieces that you can use that we'll talk about in a minute that will then become a part of your entry into this new job. So your plan of action is really just two pieces, and the whole thing is kind of built on top of the idea of like a portfolio. Now, when you hear portfolio, a lot of people think about, you know, graphic designers and artists and that kinds of things, and that is generally where, you know, people are like, oh, I want to see your portfolio. And you're probably not going to refer to these pieces that you're creating as your portfolio, although you certainly could if you wanted to. In the business world, that may confuse some people, but you can always give it a try and see how it goes. The things that we're trying to do here are create examples that you can share and talk about during the interview. Now, sometimes you're going to be just talking about these during the phone screen, which is fine. You're going to have them in front of you and use those when people start to ask you questions about the kind of experiences you have. So you can say, well, I created this, and this is why, and this is what it did, and here's the problems I ran into, and here's what I did about them, because it makes everything more concrete. And even without what may feel to you like not such a deep well of experience will be way more impressive to the person that you're speaking to than just saying, well, I haven't done this before, but I really think I can. Okay, having concrete examples and having something to show when you do go to the in-person is always a better situation than that lighter waiter of, you know, well, I've done some reading about it and I've worked with other people who did it. Do you see the difference there? It may sound like a fine line to you when I'm saying this, but I can promise you that when you're talking to somebody and when you're showing them and you're giving them these examples, it has a much more powerful impact. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna, it looks like Periscope has frozen again, so just give me 1 sec. Oh, my lovely, lovely Periscope. I try so hard. Let's try it over here. Okay, and this one. Okay, all right, so we are up. Great. Hang on, I am still fighting the end of this flu here, so I'm going to ask your patience for 1 second. Helps if I remember to turn back on the sound. Yes, sound. We are very much in favor of sound here. Okay, so let's get into this. Yeah, we don't need that now. So the first thing I would say is, and probably the easiest thing to do, is to go and get yourself some tool experience. So let's say that, you know, you're looking at this particular job posting and it says that it is very, very important that you have Visio skills. And maybe you've never used Visio, maybe you've come from a Mac environment and you've used Sketch or something, or even you've worked in Windows, but maybe you've only used Azure or Pencil or something like that. So the easiest win right here for you is to just go ahead and download the trial. Now, you're only going to have a window for this where it's going to be free. So you want to make sure that you're going to do it in a time window where you're going to have time available in your schedule to make the most out of it, to really get in, use it, and build some things. But that's a perfect example of how this does not have to cost you money, but it is going to cost you, you know, time, obviously. So you can go, pretty much every package out there has some sort of a free trial period. Some are shorter than others, but at least it's there. So what I recommend to everybody to do is to go and take the one or two that you're feeling a little light on, or maybe you haven't used in a while. Download the first one, go watch a couple of YouTube training videos. Make sure you've got the versions in sync. You don't want to be watching a training video for like something from Windows 2000 if you're using 2018 or the web one. But make sure that it's a one-to-one match. And then dive in, spend the time, take the training course, work with the tool. The important thing here, the thing that will make all the difference for you is don't just watch the videos. Actually go in, watch, learn, take notes, and then pause it, go into the tool, and actually build something. And what most people find is most helpful is if it's a realistic example. So let's use Visio as an example. So if you want to learn Visio, the best way to do it is to go ahead and create a flow, or map out a sitemap or something, so that you're actually working with it. And if you don't have a project in mind, go to like your bank site or your favorite shopping site. Actually, shopping sites are a really good way to go about it. So let's say you've never used Visio before and you need this for this job that you're looking at. So great, go down, download it, take the video, take the video training for free on YouTube or wherever. And then go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to map out the, e-commerce shopping experience, and then actually use Visio to go in and build it, and then take a look at it, and, really evaluate it with a critical eye, and look for the things that you missed on the first pass, and go through and fill in the gaps. Show it to somebody that you trust. Have them give you feedback on it. Not, don't go to your mom who's going to say, oh, that's great, honey, it looks really good. Go to somebody who's really going to evaluate it and poke holes in it so that you can make it stronger and you can get more comfortable, because as you're doing this, you're also going to be getting better at the tool. Okay? Let me just see if there's any questions here. Good, we're excellent here. All right, let's see. Susan is saying, when I want to go into a new area, I got connected with a nonprofit that needed what I wanted to do. I was free and short term, so it's okay as I was learning. They were officially client experience. Yeah, a lot of people, will do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you can afford to do that, that's great, but, not everybody can afford to work for free, and I don't recommend that anybody do that if they can't afford it. You have to be realistic about your situation. Now, if you can do that, then that's great, because that's a win-win. You're helping, a nonprofit, but that's the key for me. It's one thing to work for free for, or volunteer for a nonprofit or, a group that you support or whatever. It's another if you're being asked to volunteer for somebody who's going to make money off of it. So, again, weigh it out for yourself. But yes, if it is something like that, where it's a nonprofit, it's something that you support, it's going to be short term, and it will give you this quick, boost in some experience, absolutely go for it. But if it's somebody's going to be making no money off of it, you should be making money off of it too. My personal opinion, but I do feel strongly about it because I've seen too many people get sucked into that. And you have to be careful. If you're going to do that, you have to set clear parameters, because those kinds of things can turn into a lifetime of free support if you're not careful. Again, if you can afford to do it, that's great. But not everybody can because of the bills that we all live with. Okay. Get myself back on track here. So the same idea works with, something like Excel or like Google Docs. So that's the other thing. So a lot of people maybe have the Microsoft Office experience, but more and more you're starting to see people are using Google Docs and Google Sheets and all that. So it's the same kind of thing. If you have never, done anything before in it, go take the, online training. There's a load of that out there. But then don't just absorb, actually build something real. And then that thing that you're building real will also become a part of your BA portfolio that you can then show and talk about as you're going through the interview process. So create whatever visual, modeling examples that you can think of. The more that you create that cover sort of the touch points of a typical project, the better off you're going to be. So, like I said, create maybe the e-commerce workflow, maybe build a sitemap for an e-commerce site. Or if you want to mix it up, if you're not sure, what domain and you're afraid of coming across to e-commerce, maybe do one, that's the the flow for an e-commerce is good because everybody has pretty much done it. So it's something that people will be able to follow along with. But maybe do then, a site map, for a banking site. And then maybe do, like user personas, for some sort of like internal app, like maybe a customer service call center kind of a thing. Again, things that you would have enough knowledge of, even if you haven't worked with it, just by having lived in this world, you can make some assumptions. It doesn't have to, have every little detail in it, but you do want to show that you're able to think through not just the obvious cases, but all of the offshoot cases. So, if it's the call center, the call comes in, the person is irate, they're upset about something, how do you handle it? How do you, branch it off when you need to bump it up? As you're going through and you're doing that, how do you go and do the research about whatever the issue is the person's having and map all that kind of stuff out? That's a good one for swim lanes because it's the kind of thing generally where the person on the phone is actually touching base with other team members to get the answers and hopefully solve the problem for the person. So again, it's just another example that you can show for people. You could then also maybe build a wireframe example of maybe what... maybe like a login process. It's a nice generic kind of thing. Everybody at some point or another on whatever project you're working on is going to have to work with a login and registration system. So maybe go through the process of building the wireframes for that. Again, it's killing two birds with one stone basically, because if you're not familiar with the tools, you're working with the tools, but you're also building real world examples which you can use as you're having the conversations about the jobs. Let's see, Susan says, so Susan was talking about the nonprofit. They are now a nonprofit, so they are now a paying client, which is the best scenario. But she sees what I'm saying. It's a tough line to walk. You have to evaluate the situations in front of you and don't just get sucked into it, or bullied into it because somebody's telling you you have to do it. No, this is your job search. You have to do what's right for you. It worked out great for Susan, and I know a lot of people where that kind of thing has worked out. I'm just saying that it's not necessarily the only thing that you have to do. Doing this kind of thing that we're talking about here is just as valuable, whether or not you have a real client or not, as long as you are making sure, that you're going through the process and treating it like it was a real job. So like these documents that you're creating, do it like you're doing it for real, because that's your end goal, is to do this for real and get paid for it. Okay. So as I said, portfolios, examples are not just for artists and designers. The more things that you have, more arrows in your quiver, as they say, the better hunter you're going to be. So that's definitely true. One of the other things that you will hear is that you absolutely have to go and get a certification. You can't apply for these jobs until you've taken this certification, which takes this many weeks or months and costs you this much money. That's not necessarily true. Now, again, your mileage may vary, but for 99% of the people out there, a certification is a nice thing to have later. When you're trying to get a job, whether you're employed right now and you're looking to make a move, or if you don't have a job and you've got bills to pay and you need a job as fast, the certification is just a piece of paper. It does not prove anything. If down the road you want to get it because it's going to make things easier for you to get other jobs, that's great. Go ahead, absolutely. But it is not a reason to not apply. It is not a reason to, again, think that you are not worth what you are worth in going in to get this job. Because to me, that this is just like the big fancy expensive college thing. Okay, I had friends. Everybody knows the people who mommy and daddy paid for them to go to this big fancy college, and all they did was drink beer. And then there's the person who went to the local schools, who busted their hump and studied hard and took every bit of knowledge out of that experience that they could get. I can tell you in a heartbeat who I would want to hire. I have no interest in the person with the fancy degree who couldn't be bothered to show up for class. I would absolutely go with the person who studied hard, but maybe went to a smaller college. Same thing with certifications. Just because you have that piece of paper, that does not tell me that you can do the job. If you have answers to my questions, if you can give me examples of how you would solve a problem or have solved a problem or how you've worked on a team before, if you can show me the type of documentation that you're creating, you are going to stand out above everybody else that we're interviewing, because most of the people don't bother with that kind of stuff or can't do it. Okay. Sorry, I really should just label this whole month. I should have just labeled as rants. Okay, let's see what else I've got here. I think I'm pretty good here. Okay, so this again was what I talked about. So don't be afraid to apply. You know, if you've got most of what's on that job description, then absolutely go right ahead. You don't need to be a 100% match. The 100% match probably doesn't exist. Okay, so here, let me just go back. We're going to just talk a little bit more. Nope, that's not the one. That's the one. Seriously, come back. There we go. Okay, so let's just kind of rehash this a little bit here. The 2 steps that I talked about in all of the promotion for this show are have your plan of action and put it into place. And your plan of action is get familiar with the tools, go download the free, what do they call them? The free trials, so that you have something real to work with. Take the online courses. There's a bunch of free ones. If you want to take a paid one, that's fine. Just make sure that if your focus is on learning tools, that you're not just taking a course and sitting back and passively absorbing. Make sure you're building real examples using that tool that you can then take with you to the interview process. Whether or not your focus is on the tools or not, so that is the one piece. The second piece is just to get the experience and create some sample documents. So, if it's wireframes, frankly, I don't care if you take a pen and a pencil and a piece of paper and do them on that. As long as you can create a few wireframes that you can then walk through with somebody, explain why you've got this element here, why that element's there, what happens when something, when they click here or when they do an enter here. Make sure that you've got enough of a story there that you can walk through. It doesn't have to be, 50 pages. You can do it in, 3 to 5 or 10, as long as it's enough that if you sat down with somebody and were having this conversation, they would start to pick up on the fact that you know what you're talking about. You can do this job. Same thing, whether it's maybe it's building, spreadsheets, if you're going to be doing those kind of comparisons, if you're going to be doing the analytics on it. If you've got your own website, you can just go to Google Analytics, pull down that data, and show the different ways that you can manipulate it, interpret it, and identify trends in it. It's all right there. If you don't have it, again, if you go to some of the free training sites, sometimes they have sample data that you can work with. And again, you can do that same kind of thing. Take that giant pile of data and massage it and work with it and break it up and present it in a way that it then communicates the story. That's the kind of thing people are hiring us to do. If you are looking to do task flows and workflows, same kind of thing. You can do it on paper and pencil, that's fine. But you're probably going to, also want to do it, maybe you could do it online, you could do it, inside of the tool, whatever works for you. But then again, show the story, show the process, show the main path, show the branches, show how you're handling errors. All those kinds of things need to be there. What else? I had a couple more. Oh, with surveys too. I don't know if you go back, if you go to the our Twitter feed, there was a story this week about, I'm going to forget, I think it was Marriott, who put out a survey. Okay, now Marriott, big international company, right? They did a survey, and there was something about one of the questions. I can't remember exactly what it was now, but if you go back to the Twitter feed, you'll find it. But the end result was, they got in major trouble with the country of China, okay, over a survey. So, if this is the kind of thing that in the type of A work that you do, you're doing surveys, work up a couple of surveys. Explain, how you did them, why you phrase the questions this way, why you're asking these questions that way, and maybe even go and get that story and see if you can get your hands on that survey so that you can, rework it in a way that wouldn't have gotten Marriott in trouble and show what they had done and what you would do different and why. Concrete examples are the currency of success when it comes to getting these jobs. And just because maybe you haven't worked, as a BA doesn't mean that you can't create your samples. If you are working as a BA today, go through your different projects. See, look at your successful projects. See, what pieces out of there you could take out of context, because usually there's some, you don't want to show anything that would be under an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. You don't want to do anything that would, share any company secrets or all that. But there's always some generic pieces, login, error handling, that type of thing, that you could maybe pull out and use as part of your example set. So, maybe you don't need to go through this process of building them unless you're moving into a domain where they're looking for something that maybe you haven't done yet. So then you would have the balance of, okay, well, here's the stuff I've done in the work that I've done, and here's examples of how I would do things inside of your domain. A huge win. I mean, you would have to feel confident going into an interview with those things in your briefcase, along with the extra copies of your resume, of course. Okay. Thank you, Susan. I'm glad you're finding this helpful. Let me just, not, I feel like I'm avoiding, okay, I didn't want to, you're all welcome to just chat. That's fine. That's fine. No, I want to make sure that I'm covering everybody. Okay. So basically that's it. I mean, it's simple, but it's not something that everybody thinks of. I can guarantee you that it's not something that everybody will take the time to do. So if you are serious about trying to find a job, again, whether you're new, whether you're coming back to the workforce, if you're looking to transition, or maybe you're just, looking to do something that's going to involve slightly different skills than what you're doing today. These are all things that are going to happen to everybody. It keeps this fresh. I mean, for me, that's what makes this work exciting, right? All these people are like, oh, well, no, you've worked in financial, so you can only ever work in financial. No, I have worked in e-commerce, the medical field, financial. I've worked in HRIS, which is like human resources kind of stuff. That's the fun part for me, is that I get to go into all these different companies and learn all this cool stuff that I never would have gotten, exposed to otherwise, because I have the skill set of being able to go in, identify problems, patterns, break it down, come up with solutions, present those solutions, document them in a way that everybody can work with that data. That's my skill set. And part of the perk for me is I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly getting exposed to new things. So don't let anybody tell you that you can only do one thing. If that's all you want to do, that's totally fine. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying that if part of the fun for you is, part of the fun for me is getting exposed to these different worlds, absolutely, the world is your oyster. Everybody needs our skills. So if, you're serious about it and you're run into this perfect job description, except you're just missing maybe this one little piece that you would like to have in your back pocket, do these things. Download the tool. Take the online training for free or go take a paid course, but create real examples while working through that training. And then if it's not a skill, if it's not a tool thing for you and it's just a document thing, create your own little documents, create your workflows, your task flows, maybe even a little requirements document, not the whole thing, but maybe a section of it. Even just being able to provide, like building a glossary of tools that's, specific to that industry. All of these things are going to make you seem much more valuable, much more skilled than somebody that just walks in and puts their resume down and just sits there and answers questions. So think about it. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out. I always go back and I check after the sessions because not everybody can watch us live. So I'm more than happy to answer your questions about this. And hopefully this will help you get the job of your dreams or move into a new area that you've never tried before. We spend a lot of time at work. Might as well be interesting, right? Okay, folks. Well, thank you so much. Next week, I talked to Mare today, so it sounds like she might be back. So hopefully we'll be able to do that conversation we've been talking about. But also, like I mentioned in the promos for this, if you have any questions, comments, if there's a topic around this whole job search thing that we haven't gotten into deep enough for you, please let us know, because that's what we're here for. We're here to help you. And if you're just catching on this session, if you go back, the earlier sessions were about how to start, preparing to work on your resume, whether it's, from scratch or if you're updating your resume, things to keep in mind when working on your resume. Now we've talked about how to add to your skill set and not lying about it. That's key. Do not lie about it. But by doing this, you've got real examples, you've got real experience to show. So if there's anything else that would help you, please let us know. Otherwise, if everything holds, good for Mare, then next week what I'm expecting is that we'll probably have the conversation about what makes a good BA. A lot of people land in this job, but maybe it's not a good fit for their personality or their skills or their board or whatever. So we're going to talk about the things to think about if you're thinking about making a move into this. Let me just do one more check and see if there's anything else. If not, then I will let you go. Yes? Great. Okay. Hey, we did this pretty good. Okay, so thank you so much. Please, if you enjoyed this, make sure that you follow us and you click in whichever environment you're in to get the notifications about when we're going to go live. We do our show every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And plus we pop on, during the week, anytime there's something interesting going on, or if we just feel like chatting. You can find us on Facebook. We're on Periscope, and we are also on, oops, let me bring that up actually. There we go. Yeah, so we are on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Periscope, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. We also have our own website, which is thebazone.com. So if all else fails and you've got a question and you don't know what else to do, just go to thebazone.com. We've got a comment form there. Our email address is there. Reach out and let us know what we can do for you. Okay? And most important of all, don't stress. I mean, okay, you're going to stress. But keep in mind, everybody goes through this. You have skills that are valuable. Have, faith and confidence in yourself. Don't let anybody run you down. You will find the job. You just have to put the work in. You have to be patient. You've got to keep checking in, looking for a job as a full-time job, but also remember to balance it out with life and some fun, because that's also important too. Okay? Thanks so much, folks. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.